Hello again. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy over here for EliTheComputerGuy.com and EverymanIT.com. Today's class is comments and include in PHP programming. So this is the next class in our PHP programming track. So we've talked a little bit about what PHP programming language is. We've talked about the syntax. Now we're going to start to get into a little bit of coding, a tiny little bit of coding. I think to start off with, the comments and the include function are probably the two most important things that you should start learning about in PHP programming. They're very easy to do and very powerful. Basically, comments are going to allow you to insert comments into PHP code so that you know what the PHP code does later. When you're writing small programs, when you're writing programs that are 5 lines of code or 10 lines of code or 20 lines of code, you probably will remember what every single line of code does, or you can simply look at it and figure out what's going on. Once you start writing programs that are 100 lines of code, 1,000 lines of code, or 10,000 lines of code, it may be very difficult to go back later and try to figure out what that piece of code you wrote is supposed to do. Well, what you can do is you can insert comments into the code to explain to yourself or to somebody else going back later what it is that the next lines of code are supposed to do. So if you are getting information from a database and sending out an email, you would be able to put a comment that says, this function gets information from X database and then sends out an email blast. You would be able to put that into the code. PHP would not process it as code. It would simply skip over it. And then if somebody went back later, they could look and go, oh, that's what this line of code is supposed to do. The next thing that we're going to talk about in today's class is the include function. So functions within the PHP programming language, or within any programming language, are kind of like small programs. Functions are something you can call. You can give the function certain parameters, and then the function will do something for you. So there is the mail function within PHP. Basically, you call the mail function, you give the mail function the email address you want to send an email to, the subject you want that email to have, and then the message, and then that function will turn all of that into an email and send it off through your PHP server. Well, the include command, what the include command does, or the function does, which is very, very cool, is it grabs another file, it grabs all the information from another file and simply includes it into the current file so that you don't have to rewrite all of the information. I started using the include function years ago simply as a way to create menu bars for the websites that I was creating. So especially when I was new, I didn't know if I wanted to create a website with 4 pages or 5 pages or 10 pages, right? The problem is back if you're doing static HTML web pages, you go to the About page and you have a little menu bar, you actually have to code that on the About page and the Home page and the Contact page and the Pictures page and any page that you have. So you have to go back and hand code it in every single page. Well, if you're able to call the include command, you can create one menu bar and then simply include it. So you can write the HTML code on your About page and then simply include the menu bar. So if you ever need to change the menu bar, you can go to one file that might be called menu.php, change it there, and then you're good. Then every single page will automatically grab that information. So we're going to talk about that more in this class. So this class, again, is very simple, but we're starting to get into a little bit of code. We're starting to do a little bit of PHP. And it's pretty easy, pretty simple, as long as you follow along with what I'm saying. So this class is comments and include in PHP programming. If you give me a second, we'll dive right in. So the first thing that I want to talk about is comments. So comments are very, very important, especially new programmers don't use comments nearly enough. Remember, even when you get very, very good with programming, it is very easy to read programming code and still not know what the programming code is supposed to do, especially if you're calling a lot of different files or if that code interacts with a lot of different things. It can be very difficult to go back and figure out what something is supposed to do. If you're looking at 50 lines of code, you may just be looking at it and you might be stumped. You can read it, you can read everything that's there, but you don't really understand what's going on. Well, by inserting comments into your code, you can tell people what certain segments of code are supposed to do. As I was saying in the overview portion, you can say the next set of code grabs email addresses from the My Email Address database and then sends email blast out to all those email addresses. Now, if you put that as a comment before your code, then you can look at that and go, oh, okay, so this code is supposed to access a database, grab information from the database, and then send out emails. So you understand what the code is supposed to do, so then when you read the code, you have a better idea of what is going on. Now, comments are very, very easy to do in PHP programming language. So again, we're going to do a demonstration, but I'll write this on the whiteboard first, kind of get into your head. Whenever you do PHP code, remember you have to tell the interpreter that you're going to be doing PHP. So you do angle bracket, question mark, PHP, uppercase, and then somewhere below, you do question mark, angle bracket again. So this is open PHP code, close PHP code. Then in the middle is your PHP code. This is your PHP program. So as we'll be showing you with the example, so you might tell PHP something as simple as print hello world. So print is the command, quotation marks, hello world in quotation marks. So it's going to print the text hello world, and then it ends with a semicolon. Again, I'm going to keep hammering this home. Why does it end with a semicolon? It ends with a semicolon because a semicolon is like a period in the English language. It says that this sentence or this command is done. So print hello world. Now, we can put a comment here. For this, we obviously know what's going on. It's print hello world. But let's say this is something more complicated. If we wanted to do a comment, there are two ways you can do a comment. One way is you can comment out a single line. So in order to comment out a single line, all you do is // and then whatever you want commented out. So as soon as PHP sees this, it knows that everything else on this line is a comment. So you could say, this will print hello world. So you don't need it now, but if this was something more complicated, you could make a comment that says this here prints hello world, or this prints, or this gets, you know, information from one database and transfers it to another database, or something like that. // comments out one single line of code. It's important to understand when I say one single line of code, it is a single line of code. A line of code could be exceedingly long. Remember, when you're doing it with text editors, I'm not really sure if there's a limit to a line of code. You could almost write a book in a single line of code if you really wanted to write it that long, but it won't fit on a single page. But this will comment out that entire line of code, but only one line of code. So if you want to very easily comment out multiple lines, so let's say you want to write this so a human can actually read it, all you would do is you would do / asterisk or star. You would do your comment on multiple lines, and then you would end by * or asterisks. So you open a comment / asterisk, you say everything you want to say in the comment, and then you close the comment with asterisk /. So those are the two ways that you can comment. Again, whenever you do a comment, either it's / asterisk, asterisk /, that's everything between, or / for one line of code. What that will do is that will tell the PHP software, the interpreter, that this is a comment and should not be run as code. So anything on the line or anything between these two tags will not be run as code. So this is all that comments are. Again, when we go up to the demonstration, I'll show you how this works. It's pretty simple, but very important. Again, you're going to be using comments in order to write comments, write instructions within your code to say what your code is doing. Again, even if you can read code, it doesn't necessarily mean you understand what is going on. So by doing these comments, you can give yourself or somebody that comes behind you the hints about what it is this thing is supposed to do. This is all that there is for comments. So now we need to talk about the include function. So we're going to be talking about functions more as we go through this whole track. But basically understand that functions are kind of like little programs within the programming language. So functions allow you to do very, very, very specific things with data that you give the function. So whenever you call a function, you call the name of the function and then you give it certain parameters. We'll go into this more as we go along. The function that we're dealing with today is the include function. So what the include function does is you're going along in your PHP code and you're handwriting all this code. And then what you can do is you can include another file's information. So what that means is, again, let's say you're dealing with a menu bar and you don't have to retype the menu bar on 50 different web pages on your website. You can create one menu bar and then call it from the 50 different web pages using the include command. If you want to modify the menu, all you do then is you modify the one file, the one menu file, and then that automatically will basically update everything to every other page. Whenever a PHP script is called, it will automatically go to that file and write the information. It is just incredibly, incredibly easy, and it's incredibly easy to do. So what you're going to do in order to do an include function is you'll need to call the include function, and you'll need a file for the include to call. So you'll create another file with all the information that you want to be written within your PHP script. So when we do the demonstration, I create a file called include.php and simply write out all the text there. What's important to understand with the include is that PHP will go grab all the information and write it in line with the script that you have already done. So you already have opened PHP and you have already closed PHP on the script that you're currently writing out, right? So you don't want to put these PHP tags into the include file, because then that will cause all kinds of problems and close everything out. So it'll be bad. So in the include file, you only put what you want to write right this second. You don't worry about a lot of the opening the PHP tag or closing it. So all you do is over here you have include.php file, and let's say in the include.php file we simply do print hello world quotation mark. So we do print the command we talked about, quotation mark hello world in quotation mark semicolon. Semicolon again is the period in the sentence, and that is in include PHP. We are currently working in test.php, right? So here, what we can do is we can open the PHP script. If we want to include what is in include.php, all we do is we then call the include function. We do parentheses, single quotation mark, then we call the file include.php. We close the quotation marks, close the parentheses, and do semicolon as a period. Now, what will happen is when this PHP script is run, PHP will run, it will come to this include file, it will then go to the include file, it will then print this here, and then it will keep running. So again, something as simple as, let's say, print hello world, or what I'll show in the demonstration, may not seem too sophisticated, but you could have an entire menu system here. You could have a lot of things. Basically what happens with the include is it'll go to that file, it'll grab all the text in that file, and then it will write all that text right here in your PHP script. That is all include does. Again, remember, it's going to write all this information within your PHP script, so you don't need to necessarily put any PHP tags within the file that you're including, because it's going to take this text and then it's going to write it right here. Hope that makes some sense. When we do the demonstration, hopefully this will make a little more sense for you. So I've explained to you what comments are, why they're important, kind of drew this out here, and I explained to you what the include function is. Again, with all this, it makes a lot more sense when you can see it on a computer. You can see it in the real world. So let's go onto my computer. I'm going to open up Notepad++. I'm going to write out the code, upload it to my GoDaddy web hosting account, and show you how all this works. I think when you see it, it's going to make a lot more sense. Okay, so here we are at my Windows 7 computer, and I have Notepad++ open. So for these examples, for the demonstration today, I'm going to be using two files. The first file is the main PHP file that we're going to be calling, called test.php. And then we also have the include file, so include.php. So when we include the information, as I'll show you how to do, it will come from this file here. Now, as we can see, over on the right-hand side, this is my FTP server. This connects to www.elithecomputerguy.com. I have a folder up there called test, and so I'm already connected to it. So here I'm going to code the files, and then I will upload them to this test folder. If we go to just Google Chrome, we can see the web browser is currently open. It's pointed at www.elithecomputerguy.com/test/test.php, and currently it is completely blank. So there's no information up here. So the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to go to the test.php file, and as always, we need to open and close the PHP script. So we need to create the PHP script. So the way we do that is angle bracket, question mark, uppercase PHP, and then, do enter a few times, do question mark, and then the other angle bracket. So what this will tell the web server is everything that is in here, everything that's here, is a PHP script. So it says anything between these tags run as a PHP script. Now, especially for you new guys, I would always say to make sure that you know that you're coding things correctly, that you're not messing anything up. So you should run a simple command here to make sure that your PHP is working properly and you know what you're doing. So the way I normally do this is I simply do the print command. So I showed you this before. We are going to have more of a class on this, and our next class will be print and variables. But basically what the print command does is it says print out on the screen whatever is between the quotation marks. So what I'll do is print hello world, close quotation marks. So remember, in PHP you have to open and you have to close. So open PHP, close PHP, open quotation marks, close quotation marks. And then remember, in PHP, the semicolon is the equivalent of a period in a sentence for the English language. So print hello world is a complete sentence. So from there, make sure to save. So I'm going to save. Then I'll just go over here to upload file. So this will now upload my new file to the test folder on www.elithecomputerguy.com/test/test.php. So now, if I hit refresh, I will see that it prints hello world. So this makes sure my PHP is set up properly. I'm doing things, basically that I know what I'm doing. If you make a mistake at this point, then it's a lot easier to troubleshoot, especially since you're new guys. Print is a complicated thing for new people. But so here, this is all I want to show you. So all we do first is we make sure that our little PHP script is working. So print quotation marks hello world, quotation marks, semicolon, again remember the semicolon, save, make sure to save, and then upload the file. If you're using Notepad++ and you don't save, it will simply upload the last thing that you did save. So when you use this upload command here with Notepad++, it uploads the file that you saved. So if I did a whole bunch of edits here, did not save, and then uploaded, it would upload the last saved version. So always make sure you save. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to go over to the include.php to show you how include works. So what include is going to do again
is it is going to go to whatever file has been referenced, and then it will simply print what is in that file. So you could have commands, you could have menus, you could have simple text. So since this is a simple little script that I'm showing you, we're going to put in simple text. So what I'm going to do is just all uppercase. This um, text is included. So this is very simple. This is simply ASCII text. So now I'm going to save, and then I'm going to upload. So now this is the first step. So I create the include.php file. I write here whatever I want to write. So as I was talking about before, I first used PHP, frankly, to create menu bars back in the day. So I could create one single menu bar and then simply include it from all these different HTML files. So you could have menu bars here, you could have options, you could have forms, you could have pictures, you could have any HTML coding that you want here. All I'm doing right now is this text is included. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to test.php. I'm going to go to a different line, and then I'm going to call the include function. So I call include by simply typing include, I-N-C-L-U-D-E, parentheses, single quotation mark, and then the file that you are including. So you're going to be using whatever file path you need to call the include script. Since we're in the beginning, what I would say is put the file that you will be including in the same folder that you will run this script from. So if you look over here, you'll see that test.php and include.php are in the same folder. I would suggest you do this in the beginning. So now I can do include.php. Again, close, open, close. So single quotation mark. So I open a single quotation mark, I close a single quotation mark. I open a parenthesis, I close a parenthesis. In PHP, you open and then you close, and then you do the semicolon. Now remember, the semicolon is like a period in a sentence. So when we said print hello world, semicolon, include, semicolon. You give a command, you give a sentence, then you do a semicolon. Now, one thing that I'm going to do here, since we talked about this in the last class, is remember that text formatting is different than HTML formatting. So if I upload this right now, what will happen is the text that's included will come directly after hello world. So let me just show you that for a second. So now I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to upload. So now it's uploaded. So we have print hello world and then include the include.php. Now if I go over here and I hit refresh, now you're going to see that hello world, there's hello world, and then this text is included is right beside it. So it's all one continuous line. So even though you wrote this as two separate lines here, remember that the web browser only accepts HTML formatting commands. So if we want to put this is included information on a different line, we have to put some kind of HTML break in here. So all this says is hello world, break to the next line, and then include. And then we'll upload that after it's been saved. And now we'll refresh. And now we have the text on two different lines. So hello world, and then this is included. So if we look, again, so the include calls all the information here. So you will notice this if you ever go and you take a look at like WordPress programming, the programming that's behind the WordPress content management system, they will put all of the information into one header.php file and then include that entire header file. So as we go into this and we start getting more complicated, I will show you how to do this. Again, here I'm just trying to be simple for you. But they can include the entire header or the entire footer. So it doesn't have to be a small amount of information like this text is included. This could be 1,000 lines of code here that you could have added to your PHP script simply by calling it with the include command. So, but that's all the include command does. So print hello world. This actually prints out hello world. And then include grabs the information from the other from the include.php and prints it out also. Now, as I was showing you, I first did the print hello world first to make sure that that my PHP was working, that there were no problems. Well, as I talked about before, if we want to do a comment, so // we can say this is a comment. Now, anything after a // on this one single line will not be read by PHP. So these comments are used in order to say who created the program, to say who, the contact information for the creator. Or it can be used simply to say what you are doing in a particular part of the program. So I can say // I am about to print hello world. So it tells you what you're trying to do next. So it says, I'm about to print hello world, and then it goes, print hello world. Okay, now I know what's going on. Again, commenting is very important because as these pieces of software get more and more complicated, once you get hundreds or thousands or 10,000 lines of code, it gets to be very difficult to understand what each little function, what all these are doing. So by leaving comments, you make it very easy to be able to read and say, oh, I know what this is doing. So if I save this and I upload this now, and then we go back to the EliTheComputerGuy.com test, we will see that nothing shows up. So if I do a refresh, absolutely nothing shows up. The reason is because those were comments, and therefore nothing at all shows up. Now, one of the cool things you can do with comments is, as I was saying, I inserted this print hello world command to make sure that my PHP is functioning properly, to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. Well, now that I have this and now that I know this works, what I can do if I want to leave this here but not have it run is I can do what is called commenting it out. So if I do // before this command, we now see it turns green in Notepad++, and this command will no longer be run. So if I hit save, and then I upload, so you always save, and then you upload, and then I go back, we will see that now we have only the included text. So we commented out the print hello world. So that is one of the things that the single line comment can be very useful for, is you can insert code in your software to make sure your software is doing what it's supposed to do. It can kind of give you a visual log file, and then once you're sure it's doing what it's supposed to do, you can simply comment out that line of code. Then after that, so we've seen how you can comment single lines. So this will only comment a single line. So // this is a comment. So anything on this line of text will be commented out. But if you go to the next line down, this will not be commented out. This will try to be read by PHP. If you want to try to comment multiple lines of text, all you have to do is, again, you do // but then you do star, and then you go down, and then you do star // oops, // and this is how you comment out multiple lines of code. So between // to star // again, open, close, everything between those two will be commented out. So if I save, and then I upload, and then I go, I will see it's still all commented out. So that is how comments and include work. Again, when we're doing the PHP script, just since I hammer this home, since you guys are new to this, remember you open the PHP script, then you close the PHP script. Then, especially since you're new, I would put in a command such as print space, quotation mark, hello world, quotation mark, semicolon, and then upload that to your server. Make sure your PHP is functioning. Make sure you're not doing something really stupid. Then if you want to use include, all you do is you create a file that's going to be included, like this text is included or whatever you want to say. You call the function include, parentheses, single quotation mark, the file that you want to have included, single quotation mark, close parentheses, semicolon. A semicolon is used because it's like a period in a sentence. That will then include this file. Then comments, as I was saying, if you want to do a comment, again, for a single line, so if you're just trying to comment out a single line, it's //, and it will comment out that line, which means PHP will not try to run it as a script. If you're trying to comment out multiple lines, again, you have to open and close. So /* opens the comment, and then basically everything is commented out until you do */. That is all there is to include and comments in PHP. I know this probably seems like I've gone on a long time, but this is huge. Comments are a huge thing. They're very, very important. They seem simple, but it's very important. And again, you guys are still new, so this is going to become more important later, so you have to make sure that you really understand that. So with that, that's all there is to comments and include in PHP programming. So let's go out to the real world and have some final thoughts.
So that's all there is to comments and include in PHP programming. It's pretty simple as long as you keep track of what is going on. So you use comments in PHP programming to remind yourself or to tell programmers that come behind you what the code it is that you're writing is supposed to do. Again, remember, this is very important, especially for new programmers. Just because you can read code doesn't mean you understand what the code is supposed to be doing. A lot of times, a lot of new programmers will write huge amounts of code, and then they'll go on vacation for a week, and they'll come back, and they'll forget what all that code they wrote is. I mean, they'll be able to read it, but they won't understand what these functions are calling or what's going on. So put the comments in as you write your code to make sure you understand what's going on. The more comments, the better. It's just one of those things. The more comments you put in that are concise, that are to the point, that make sense, the better it is going to be for your programming. You can almost never have too many comments unless you get totally ridiculous. I did show you with the comments, you can either comment out a single line, so //, and then it comments out only one line, or if you want to comment out multiple lines, you do /*, whatever lines you want, then */, again, to close the comment that you're doing. Finally, I showed you how to do include. This may not make a lot of sense or seem important right now, but include is going to be an amazing thing as we start actually developing little pieces of software. Again, what include does is when the PHP script is being read, it says, okay, include or write everything that is in this other file into this current PHP script. So whether you're dealing with simple menu bars, whether you're dealing with more complicated pieces of code that you've written, you can now call that code once versus having to write it multiple times. Again, remember, the reason that I'm not a professional programmer is I suck at typing. Whenever I type, I forget things like semicolons or I fat thumb it. So I don't want to have to write any more code than I really have to. So if I can write one single file that does something that I need done and then call it multiple times, I'd rather do that than have to write out that single file on numerous different pages of code. So that's all there is to comments and includes. Again, very simple, but especially with programming, it's better to start simple, and it's better to start and make sure you understand what's going on than to dive in and just lose you somewhere. So again, this was comments and include in PHP programming. This is like the third class in this particular track. We are going to start diving in deeper, so don't worry. We are going to be learning more about the complicated stuff in PHP, and we're going to start to get to program small applications very soon. But as always, you got to start from the beginning. And this stuff really is the beginning that you have to understand. So as always, I'm Eli the Computer Guy over here for EliTheComputerGuy.com and EverymanIT.com. As always, I enjoy teaching this class, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.